Well, gamers, it's that time of year again. That's right, love is in the air and all the single ladies and gentlemen are, lonelier than ever. But let's not get into too much detail about real life, as we hear too much about that already. No, I'd rather take a look at video game romances instead, wouldn't you? Whether a game has a tear-jerking love story, a simple story with a lot of history, or a romance so vague you won't even know where to start, love is clearly evident within the video game world. So let's all celebrate the lovely day of love known as Valentine's Day by taking a look at what we at Game Podunk think are the top 10 video game romances. Now, how about a kiss for luck?
You've got to be kidding.
Number 10. Kicking off our list is one of gaming's most iconic pairings. The story of a hero saving a damsel in distress is one we've heard time and time again. But that doesn't matter, as gaming's most famous couple has taught us all, probably unintentionally, to never give up for the one you love. No matter how many times Princess Peach gets herself kidnapped, and no matter how many other castles she ends up being whisked away to, Mario is always willing to travel through dangerous worlds, even going into friggin' space, just to bring his love home safely. And even though he doesn't get the kind of reward he probably wants, a cake and a peck on the nose ain't gonna cut it, princess, he still continues to save her from her inevitable kidnappings after several decades. Now that's commitment. Number 9. Love comes in many different forms, with some being more legal than others, and perhaps one of the stranger relationships on this list, though technically not illegal in real life at the moment, is that of Halo hero Master Chief and his trusty holographic partner and AI love interest, Cortana. Through thick and thin, these two vastly different creatures are there for each other, willing to risk one's own life, artificial or otherwise, for the sake of the other. This sort of forbidden romance is made even more emotional later in Halo 4, which makes this love story all the more touching. Number 8. Here's a love story involving two people who don't really get along too well for the most part. Resident Evil's Leon S. Kennedy and Ada Wong have gone through the series in an estranged relationship full of arguments, trickery, and the occasional weapon being pulled on each other. Neither would hurt the other, of course, and they will oftentimes go well out of their way to help the other. And even though the people they work for aren't exactly in alliance, Ada is willing to take the long way if it means helping Leon and foiling his enemies. Not exactly the most convenient romantic relationship, but hey, it ain't easy to be simple when you've got zombies and Yavo to worry about. Number 7. One thing you will often see in Disney movies is a love story, usually involving a princess of some sort. You know what also tends to have love stories? The Final Fantasy series. So it's only natural that Kingdom Hearts, the result of combining the two chemicals, would feature a deep and touching bit of romance. Enter Sora and Kairi, the main lovebirds of the series. Also, enter Riku as well, since this childhood friend adds himself to the equation to equal a conflicting love triangle. But while Riku's off being swallowed by darkness and whatnot, Sora and Kairi have a pretty deep connection going on that makes you feel emotions you weren't sure a game featuring both Goofy and Cloud Strife were capable of forcing out of you. Number 6. Simply put, Silent Hill is not a town you want to visit. But for James Sunderland, it's a necessity. Even though his wife Mary had died years ago, James follows a letter she supposedly wrote for him and journeys to the evil town in search of her. And no matter how many nightmares he walks through, James never gives up his search for a wife he sure should be dead. Love makes you do crazy things sometimes, and when James remembers a horrible truth he had blocked out of his memory, he must confront the past and his undying love for his wife. It's these elements that make Silent Hill 2's story one of the most horrifyingly touching ones around. Number 5. Nathan Drake is a super cool, treasure-loving kind of guy. So, when he meets the beautiful TV journalist Elena Fisher, of course the only thing on his mind would be the adventure and its resulting reward. But when things start to get rough during the first Uncharted game, a flame of love begins to form between the two. Come the second Uncharted game, and an old friend starts turning their relationship sour. Ultimately though, their bond is too strong for silly love triangles, and by the end of Among Thieves, you can truly see just how perfect they are for each other. Number 4. Shadow of the Colossus is a love story of few words, but resonates deeply in our hearts. This colossal story, man I'm so clever, begins with a young man named Wander, placing the deceased body of a young woman named Mono onto an altar after she was sacrificed for supposedly being cursed. Luckily for Wander, there appears to be a way to resurrect his lost love. Defeat a total of 16 colossal beasts. Regardless of how suspicious the voice who told him that is, Wander sets off to hunt down these colossi, willing to go through hell and back to save Mono. But when all is said and done, the end reward will have to come at a price. Number 3. It's certainly no secret that the Final Fantasy series likes love stories, especially since I mentioned that back there with Kingdom Hearts. With games like Final Fantasy 7, 8, and 9 touching gamers' hearts all these years, the series is a good way to get your romantic fix. But if I had to choose the most romantic couple of the series, I'd have to go with Tidus and Yuna from Final Fantasy X. Yeah, there are a few annoyances here and there. But throughout the story's course, the two really develop and fall in love in a fairly natural way, growing as friends first before moving on to some bases. And by the end of the game, through certain twists in the story, it's hard for me to not shed at least one manly tear. Number 2. In the future, science has created a machine that lets you have memories implanted into your brain, allowing you to remember a life you always wished you'd had and die with a smile on your face. For an elderly man named Johnny, this opportunity seems right up his alley. Always wishing he'd been able to go to the moon, doctors strap him into the machine and begin the process. However, as they delve deeper and deeper into his memory banks, a very heart-wrenching tale involving the man's late wife River is displayed, showing events in their life before reaching the moment when they met. It's a very touching love story, and by the end of it all, you will probably need something to dry your tear-drenched face. Number 1. The Legend of Zelda series tells a series of tales shrouded in romantic ambiguity. While Link is almost always on a quest to save the lovely Princess Zelda, romance has never really sparked between the two, for the most part. And what makes this romance even more vague is the fact that our hero is also trying to, save the world or something, with love never truly blooming before the story's end. But over decades of Zelda games spanning many, many lifetimes, Link hooking up with the princess just seemed like it was supposed to happen. Of course, with the release of Skyward Sword, a relationship between the two was finally brought to the forefront as childhood friends Link and Zelda, who's not a princess this time around by the way, obviously have the hots for each other, and Link's sole intention when starting his quest is to save his girl. How sweet. Do you agree with the picks on this lovely list? What romances would you have included? Let us know in the comments below. Have an idea for a list you'd like to see us make? Leave that in the comments as well, and we might just pick it up. Oh, and be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to show your support. I'd love you for that. You get it? I'll leave now.